Debuting in the upcoming Medarot Survivor game releasing in 2025, this newcomer is making a short pit stop in Medarot S on their way that direction. It is DNT01 Shadow Armor. With a mostly new kit of Hard Hammer, Fight Bash, minus attack, wheeled legs, and the leg ability of Heavy Arms, which buffs all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit for every heavy part equipped, stacking of course at 3. Now with the introduction of the upcoming Survivors game that was revealed by Imagineer on Medarot Day 2024, with it came 4 brand new designs and 2 of which were by some very incredibly well-known artists in particular. Shadow Armor here is most certainly no exception, and on his way to Medarot Survivor is introducing 2 brand new attacks as gifts along the way, just to kind of make things just a little spicy as far as Medarot S is concerned. Hard Hammer on the head is a melee attribute skill which definitely puts the owl in hammer for the most part, because it not only is an AoE skill which damages all parts regularly at even damage across the board, but it also checks damage in a number of places. The first of which is it ignores defense, so it already is going to be a very painful blow right from square one. But as if that wasn't enough, Hard Hammer also gets bonus damage relative to the user's resist stats. So that means the higher and the chunkier you are and the higher your damage reduction, the more painful Hard Hammer is going to be when you go to strike them. So this is going to be a very painful attack that's really going to make it abundantly clear from turn 1 that Shadow Armor, with his already impressive damage reduction in the 1823 with melee resist and 1560 with shooting resist, is already going to be a very devastating blow right from turn 1. Fight Bash on the right arm is a brand new defense skill introduced into the game, which serves as a skill we have not seen in a pretty hot minute as far as quality of life changes have both buffed and nerfed it, but also gives it a little bit more of a kick to make it worth using. Fight Bash, while active, will place Shadow Armor on the center line and intercept all incoming blows, much like any other guard stance. The difference is Fight Bash behaves like Melee Guard, which will nullify all incoming melee attacks specifically, but the Fight Bash also will apply a Thunder counter to the enemy when intercepted. So that means if they try to bypass you and get intercepted with their melee strike, well, guess what? They do not only 0 damage, but are also stunned in place as further punishment for wasting not just your time, but theirs, making it a whole lot easier to counter the enemy from the get-go when they do intercept your attack. Just be aware though, that because this is a standard non-meta change type shield, it does mean it can be negated or countered by anyone using, say, Destroy, or Slip, or Panic, or something else of the like. And with it being melee guard specifically, it does mean it will still intercept as a regular shield at any other situations, but simply negate melee attacks exclusively. Minus attack on the left arm is another brand new skill and a conventional melee skill that gets a rather interesting damage bonus as well. In comparison to, say, Apocalypse the End from the recently finished Digimon collab, or anyone with, say, Meteor or leg type with Adversity, minus attack is a new type of skill that gets a damage bonus relative to the number of negative ailments attached to the user. So this is most certainly going to be in the same vein somewhat as, say, Meteor or Flame, or with the leg ability of Adversity with leg stats plus on minus symptoms. But simply put, for every negative symptom that is checked on the user when attacking, that is a ×2 damage bonus that can stack additively. So if you have, say, up to 2 or 3 negative ailments applied to you, you're playing a rather dangerous game, but that'll be a ×6 damage bonus on top of the already impressive almost base 1500 attack you're getting right off the bat. Wheeled legs means that Shadow Armor is going to have probably one of the highest base mobilities of most of the leg types, at the cost that he's also going to be the pickiest when it comes to terrain compatibility. But when it comes to its stats across the board, he most certainly is going to be running circles around anyone on the terrains that he is good at. With a base mobility of 945, he's already off to a very solid start in the speed department, trading just a little bit of his overall base speed for heavy support at a slot of 3, and of course the impressive bulk that he's bringing to the table. The evade of 671 isn't too great either, as it means he's not going to be dodging or grazing too heavily, but as a hybrid melee defense type, he really doesn't have to focus too heavily on dodging, being completely honest. But with his melee resist of 1823 and a shoot resist of 1560 is where he's really going to be cooking with some of those damage bonuses and additions, because those will tie directly into Hard Hammer for bonus damage almost 1-to-1 cumulatively. So the bulkier he is, the more powerful Hard Hammer is when he uses it. And that's not all. Let's also take into account Heavy Arms, which adds an additional 10 to 11% to all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit, for every heavy part he has equipped. And would you look at that, Shadow Armor is packing triple heavy across the board with a triple heavy support of 3, which means that these are only the base stats you're going to be looking at when he's on the board before any other modifiers come into play. As far as armor is concerned, he's much like a auxiliary melee defense type is to be expected. He's packing about 5100 HP for the head, just about 5800 for the right arm, just shy of 4600 for the left, and 5100 for the legs. So he is a very healthy boy, both in the armor and in the damage reduction department, meaning he's going to be really tough to take down whether you try to keep away from him from afar or you try to get up close in space. It's going to be a very dangerous foe either direction. The only real weaknesses that I do see here with Shadow Armor is the fact that A, he is triple heavy, so anyone that does decide to bring heavy punish to the table, such as with Break, Break Hammer, Break Rush, or so on, is going to very quickly cut him down to size. And the fact that because he is wheel-legged, it does mean he's going to be struggling just a little bit when it comes to terrain compatibility. So a little word of caution will be advised there, as he'll only have really 2, maybe 3 terrains at best that he's going to be good on. But with Heavy Arms really packing up his already impressive base mobility and skills across the table, this is something you could probably skirt to a point if you know what you're doing. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I honestly have to rate Shadow Armor a very impressive and well-rounded 7 out of 10 across the board. Like I said, the only real weaknesses he has is the fact that he is triple heavy, so open to punish, and because he's wheel-legged does hurt his terrain compatibility. But everything else honestly is really synergetic across the board. Hard Hammer and his very bulky legs are probably going to be the piece de resistance here with the kind of power that he can bring. Fight Bash is most certainly going to be changing a lot of the meta with the kind of shields and defenders you're going to be seeing run through the line, especially given that this has an impressive heat stat of over 900, which means that Shadow Armor is most certainly not going to be slowing down or even slowing up at all when it comes to preparing to protect his allies from any incoming attacks. And minus attack, if you choose to use it, it's not necessarily going to be something he can use immediately because he doesn't have anything that applies negative ailment himself. This is going to be mostly something that he can use as a punish attack more than anything else. So if the enemy does try to use ailment, such as say Wave, Hold, Deathlock, Lock, or something of the like, then he can start countering with some punish damage on top of that. But even if you choose to not go that way, a base power of almost 1500 is still very impressive. As mixed parts, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at an 8 out of 10 for these same reasons. While his kit can most certainly be used as a pure set pretty reliably, mixing his parts is probably where you're going to get the best bang for your buck. Hard Hammer honestly is going to of course tie with any kind of leg with very high damage reduction, tank legs in particular, or just in general any kind of very bulky leg, whether they have high speed or not. Wheeled legs with heavy arms honestly speaks for itself of how fantastic that's going to be on the terrains it most certainly is good at. And Fight Bash and minus attack are most certainly likely going to change up the meta, such as pairing minus attack with something such as say Flame or Meteor, and then synergizing it with say a leg type with Adversity is really going to be where you're taking the cake there. But ultimately, very bulky, very powerful, and a model you really can't go wrong with using either as mixed parts or fresh out of the box.